Monster Hunter Frontier has about a month left to live. It's been around for 12.5 wonderful years, bringing 2 whole new weapon types, 4 distinct styles per weapon, and a whole host of unique and entertaining fights. If you can't tell, I'm going to miss it dearly. Whilst my time with Frontier was short, having only played it for about a year and a half, I've encountered a Monster Hunter experience that's worlds apart from the current 5th generation games. So with that in mind, what's this video all about then? Well, I believe that the best way to come to terms with a loss is to celebrate it. So I'm going to be taking a look at some of the unique Frontier content that those of us who are more westward inclined can appreciate. Today's topic are the Zenith monsters. Introduced in the Frontier Z expansion, Zenith monsters were effectively an alternate endgame for players bored of taking on snake after snake after snake. They are further evolved species of existing monsters, far above G rank and even above the existing hardcore species that had been previously implemented, boasting new extreme blights, additional levels of roars and quake effects, and fights that really feel like the sky is falling down. The Frontier devs themselves even confirmed the Zenith species as being the highest possible evolution of the hardcore monsters, so you know that they're a pretty big deal. Now let's get this out of the way. I adore the Zenith monsters. Whilst some are downright frustrating to fight, and I'm sure that many of you are already airing your grievances about the dead horse that is the phrase, "oh, it's got too many spikes," I believe that the designs aren't really a deal breaker for me, and the sheer quality of the majority of the fights just outweighs that by a significant amount. If you would care to compare it to anything that we've seen in the Western series of Monster Hunter games, the closest comparison would probably be the EX Deviants from Generations Ultimate. Now, it's all well and good having a fun fight, but how does that actually fit in mechanically? And what was actually different about Zenith monsters and their quests? Well, let's take a look. To begin, in order to take on the Zenith monster quests, you must first reach G rank 200. Much like Iceborne, high rank holds separate scores to G, including gear, monsters, and even an entirely new currency, if you can believe it. At G rank 200, you can begin to take on the first stage of all Zenith monsters, the 1-star quests. I will also refer to them as Z200, so I'll be a little bit inconsistent in my terminology here. You'll unlock the 2-star at rank 400, 3 stars at rank 600, and finally a massive G rank 800 for the final tier. Between the levels, monsters gain more health, damage, different attacks, and in some cases completely different patterns of fighting altogether, meaning that you really have to familiarise yourself with each level to stand a chance of beating them, and will need to be armed to the teeth to even attempt this. Frontier spits in the face of defense build apologists and shudders with disgust at the mere mention of Ultimate Immortal sets. It's go hard or go home if you're going to take on the Zeniths. For a bit of context, I take approximately 12 minutes to solo a 4-star Zenith, depending of course on the monster, and the only offensive buffs that I'm really missing are those related to Raviente. Someone who's gotten to G rank 200 would not have a chance at a 1-star right off the bat, not without a serious carry. With each rank, Zeniths will also carry their own drop tables. You will receive certain common materials more often at each rank, and the chance of rare materials, predictably, will increase with said rank. For instance, if you were taking on a Zenith Tigrex for 1 Amber Gem and 3 Hunger Fangs, you may opt to go for the 4-star fight. Whilst the Fangs appear more commonly with the 3-star, the gem is rare enough that you'll, hopefully, get your Fangs by the time the 9% roll for the gem comes around. Okay, we're all clued up on how this all works. What are the monsters like? As mentioned before, you're in for a tough fight, but assuming that you're appropriately suited and booted, we'll take a further look. As befitting for the ultimate evolution of their species, Zenith have levels of status, element, and ancillary effects that surpass anything seen on regular monsters before. High-grade earplugs won't save you from their screams, and you're going to need more than 20 elemental resistance, and God help you if you're stricken with poison. All of these effects have crippling new levels, which you can see in this video from Sephiroth. If I figure out how captions work, you'll see it on the screen. If not, you can find it in the description. Onto the monsters themselves. The fights will operate with the assumption that you're running the max levels of evasion or guard, as there are a lot of large area attacks that can be rolled or guarded through with the right timing. If you don't pay attention to patterns or tells, or even where the monster is in relation to you, you're going to get steamrolled very, very quickly. For instance, let's take our friend Torrentclass here. I know that he'll dash forward after he steps back, and then burst with thunder. I block the attack, and make sure that I'm using iframes in enough time to avoid the second attack. It really is as simple as get hit, understand why you got hit, and try not to get hit again. And then there's the subject of the evolved body part. You see, the overblown designs aren't just for show. It will actually give you a fair indicator of where to prioritise attacking the monster. Each Zenith monster has one specially developed body part that helps it to fight with the intensity that it does, and it is imperative that this is broken. The specific body part differs from monster to monster, and can have a varying degree of effect on the monster once it is broken. For instance, something like Plesioth and Ruko become slow, immobile, and just all around crippled once their Zenith part has been destroyed, whereas you may see little to no difference against something like Hugikiki or Espinas. Breaking these parts is the only way to obtain them in the rewards, and you guessed it, there's a different one for each level, so you can expect to, at the very least, have to fight the Z800 version twice to max out any one piece of gear. One final thing to note is that using the Zenith monster weapons on these developed body parts gives you a 50% bonus to breaking it, and a fancy blue effect, making them invaluable for these quests. Speaking of Zenith weapons, let's move on to the final segment of this little recap. You've put some hair on your chest, you've geared up and blasted your way through your enemy of choice. What rewards await you for your efforts? Let's look at the weapons first. All Zenith weapons have 4 tiers of upgrade, predictably tied to each quest level. At their highest levels, you're looking at approximately 550 to 570 true raw before any buffs, and with all of these bells and whistles included, I've seen in quest values of over 2,000 true raw. Very powerful kit indeed. They all carry 3 slots for all decoration types, and all come with a Zenith skill. Zenith skills aren't necessarily a skill in the traditional sense, they're really closer to a limit break of sorts. When you have the appropriate armor skill and its corresponding Zenith buff active, you'll surpass all existing levels of said skill and receive additional benefits. For an example, let's say that you have Quake Resistance 3 active, and a Zenith skill for Quake Resistance as well. The skill will be further boosted, meaning that any Zenith level Quakes will be rendered obsolete also. Furthermore, if you choose to have low-grade earplugs and the Zenith skill for hearing, your protection will extend to the next level above, giving you high-grade earplugs. However, your Z boost will be useless if you don't have the active buff that it corresponds to. Needless to say, these are incredibly welcome damage or protective increases. And to wrap it up, the armor. As befitting for a game with about 12 years of power creep under its belt, Zenith armors are suitably ridiculous, with each piece boasting 3 slots, points for 4 to 5 different skills being available on each armor piece. The insanity doesn't end there, however, as the point values can range from 4 to even plus 10 points in any one skill, meaning that one piece of gear can just outright give you a boost, and if that wasn't enough, you also get a Zenith boost per piece, and I think it goes without saying that this armor will definitely be your main focus when it comes to set build. And that was Zenith Monsters, the highest level of evolution, and well worth the grind. With that all said and done, we're at the end of this little recap. I may see if I can show off some of my favourite of these monsters in this final month, as I reckon it's a nice little bit of Monster Hunter history that I would hate to see go unnoticed. What did you think, lads? What interests you about the Zenith species, or is there anything else that you wanted to learn about them? Let me know, and I'll be happy to answer. Be kind to each other, fellas. I'll see you all soon.